Let's talk today about quiet firing, signs that your boss wants you gone, and what you can do about it. Let me tell you, most employers will never admit this, but if your boss wants you gone, a lot of times they won't fire you, especially if they don't really have a good reason to. What they'll do instead is they'll pressure you to leave quietly, leave on your own without them having to do a thing. This is what we call quiet firing. And I see it play out in real cases all the time. Don't fall for it. If you've suddenly felt invisible, sidelined, or like the ground rules changed overnight, it's probably because they did. You might not be imagining things. Quiet firing is when an employer creates conditions so uncomfortable, so discouraging, so impossible that it starts to mess with your head, and the employee quits on their own. Because quitting saves the company money. This is why they do it. It saves them paperwork, and most of all, it saves them legal exposure. Because you know what? If you quit, there's been no termination. So, how are you going to fight wrongful termination? Let's talk about the most common signs your boss wants you gone and what you should do before you make a move. I'm a big proponent of planning first. But before I get into it, I'll remind you to hit the like button if you like my content. If you have not subscribed, please do so because it really does go a really long way in helping me continue bringing content like this to you. I enjoy doing it. So let's get into it. Sign number one, your responsibilities suddenly disappear. I mean, you used to be so busy. You used to be trusted, needed. Maybe you were even at one time the go-to person. But now your projects are reassigned, decisions happen without you, and you are copied a lot less, if at all, on emails and memos. See, this isn't about efficiency. It's about marginalizing you. So your exit feels inevitable. I mean, why do you keep showing up? They're not including you in anything. Sign number two, you're given impossible or vague expectations. So what you should watch for is goals that constantly change. Standards no one can clearly define. Feedback like, just do better. No specifics, just figure it out, do better. This is how employers build a paper trail while making success absolutely unattainable. If the goalposts keep moving, it's not performance, it's strategy on the part of the employer. They have a plan in place. Sign number three, increased micromanagement, sudden scrutiny. I mean, they are nitpicking everything. You can't move without them on you, being on you. If your boss suddenly nitpicks minor mistakes, they start tracking your time excessively, you can't even go to the bathroom, questions things that were never an issue before, that's often about their strategy. It's not about your productivity. It's about creating stress, self-doubt, and documentation. And this is what they do on a regular basis. It is a favorite. Whenever I have a case, my client, the employee, is always shocked. So many of them are shocked, most of them, when the employer presents all this information during what we call the discovery phase. And that's when we are required to turn over any evidence we have to support our claims. And the employer is required to turn over any information they have to support their defenses. So when the employer turns over their files, my clients are just shocked because there's all this stuff, all these verbal counselings in their personnel file that they have no idea about. The employer is just paper trailing away, writing up all the stuff, and it doesn't come out until the lawsuit, until the discovery phase of the lawsuit, which is why we're always telling employees, document everything. That's why I have this document everything journal that's available on Amazon. Whether you use my journal or your own, you need to be creating your own documentation. That's evidence. That's evidence that will stand up in court. So someone asked, how are you supposed to know what to document if your employer is putting information in your file without you even knowing about it? And that's a fair question. So here's the deal. You should be documenting all the time, but especially if something is off, you need to have notes about it. So if you have some type of confrontation, somebody accuses you of something, whatever, you need to have notes. And my journal tells you exactly how to make the notes. But in any event, that way, when your employer presents all this information during your lawsuit, you can say, no, that's not how it happened. My notes say otherwise, because your memory will fail. If you don't have something in writing, you're not going to be trusted. Your memory won't be trusted. But if you took notes at the time that it happened, you dated it, and you're very specific about it, then you have something to refute their version of the facts. Because if you don't, this is what happens. In employment cases, most of them, and I'm talking like 90% or higher, get dismissed by a judge without even going to a jury. A jury never gets to hear the case. The judge says, you don't have sufficient evidence to go forward. The employer comes with all this information, all this evidence, and the employee has nothing to refute it. And so the case ends almost before it gets started. So you need to document everything, because I can promise you the employer is documenting everything. But just because the employer says it's so doesn't mean it's so. It has a greater chance of being so if you don't have anything to refute it. This is why you hear me and anybody else who works in the employment arena, other attorneys, coaches, people who know what's going on, telling you document everything. That's why it's your evidence. The thing about quiet firing is that it thrives on pressure, and they will keep up the pressure, believe me. Sign number 4, you're excluded from growth opportunities. So there's no training, no promotions. There are none of the good assignments come your way anymore. Meanwhile, others are being developed around you. You might even be the one required to develop them, to train them. This is how employers stall your career until you leave on your own. It is absolutely strategy. Don't think that this is some mistake. It's strategy on the part of the employer. Sign number 5, hostility disguised as professionalism. Now, quiet firing isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like cold emails, short responses, a sudden lack of support. No outright hostility, just enough distance to make work miserable. Remember, that's the name of the game. They make it really miserable for you there, so you leave on your own. Sign number 6, HR suddenly becomes concerned about you. Now, this one's really important, because at the end of the day, if HR starts asking vague questions, checking in more often, documenting conversations that feel really unnecessary, understand this: HR doesn't get involved unless someone above them has a plan. Plain and simple. Otherwise, they're not just checking in on you because they have nothing else to do. Sign number 7, you are encouraged to quit indirectly. Now, I spoke about this in a different video where I talked about some of the things that employees say that are legally detrimental. And it sounds like no big deal, but one phrase that I mentioned is when employees say, this job is so stressful, I'm thinking about quitting. Now, this is where that statement comes into play, where it really harms employees. So if they're already trying to quiet fire you, and you vent, you say to your employer, or maybe even to HR, but definitely to a supervisor, this is stressing me out so much, I'm thinking about quitting. Do not be surprised when they say, I accept your resignation. This is where that statement comes into play. This is one of the statements I mentioned in the other video, things that you shouldn't say at work. And it sounds crazy, I know, because it is crazy, but it doesn't mean it doesn't happen, because it does. And the thing is, no matter how much the employee says, I didn't say I made up my mind, I didn't say I was quitting, they never come back from it. I have never seen a case where the employee says to the employee, I'm thinking about quitting, and the employer says, I accept your resignation, where the employee was able to explain himself and go back to work. I haven't seen that. I mean, even to me, having seen it as many times as I've seen it, it still seems ridiculous to me. But they put all this pressure on you, and they start saying little things like, maybe this role isn't the best fit. And they start nudging you in the direction of quitting, and you say, I'm thinking about it. It's a done deal. Don't say that. Don't say that. No matter how you might feel, don't say that. Other statements they'll say is, you seem unhappy here, or have you thought about your next steps? They are masterminds at this. Don't fall for it. These are not supportive conversations. They're really what I call exit nudges. So let's talk about why employers quiet fire. Let's be clear. Quiet firing benefits the employer in so many different ways. Because if you quit, there's not going to be a severance. There's less risk of a wrongful termination claim because there's been no termination. You quit. And there's potentially very big potential for you're not being able to get unemployment benefits. It shifts the burden onto you to prove that you quit because they forced you out. And that's a heavy burden. So here's what you should do if you suspect quiet firing. And this is the important part. Number one, do not quit emotionally. That's never a good thing. Quitting and frustration is exactly what they want. So instead, pause, step away from it, breathe, think strategically. Always, you'll be so much better off in the end if you do that. Number two, again, make sure you are documenting everything. In addition to that, you need to save emails, performance reviews, schedule changes, any shifting expectations, because this will show their strategy. It will show what they were up to. So you need to make sure you document dates, names, and the exact language that they used. And in my book, my journal, I explain that you need to do this. Documentation is power. Make no mistake about it. Documentation is evidence. Number three, you need to ask for clarification in writing. When expectations change, ask, can you clarify what success looks like for this role? That's a good one because they're not going to be able to do it. So you should hold them to account. Make them show that they can't do it. Show in writing that they can't do it. This will expose their vague standards. Number four, you should consider whether legal issues are in play. Now, what do I mean by this? If this effort to quietly fire you follows a discrimination complaint, a medical accommodation request, FMLA leave, whistleblowing, complaining about overtime, you may be dealing with retaliation, which is a separate legal claim. You need to go to the EEOC if this is what's happening. Make sure you contact a lawyer, but definitely don't quit first. Number five, quietly prepare your exit, but do so on your terms. Go ahead and update your resume. Start networking discreetly. Consult an employment attorney before making decisions. Sign up with temp agencies, gig work, whatever you need to do to make ends meet in case things go south. Control what you can. Put yourself in the best possible situation that you can, because you can't control others, but you can control how you respond. Quiet firing is not about your worth. It's about your employer's convenience. And just because they're trying to push you out quietly doesn't mean you have to walk out without protection, without a plan, without a lawyer. You need to know the signs and make sure that you move strategically. And remember, your job is a transaction. It's not your identity. Now, if this video helped you, please remember to like and subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. I'll see you on next shift.